All right, next up, Arrick's ant. Arrick, spelled A-R-R-I-C-K. Arrick is a fly fishing guide, shop owner from the West Yellowstone area, but this pattern of his has become a staple in the West Yellowstone area throughout parts of the West, and I have found it to work just as well here. It can imitate in smaller sizes flying ants. You can use this larger sizes as just as a high-vis ant, but it works. This is a slight variation, and we're going to be using a couple different materials here. What we're going to be tying is the cinnamon ant version color scheme of this. So for the body, we're going to use just some UV ice dub in the cinnamon color. I'm tying this on a size 12 hook. You can tie this anything from like a size 10 all the way down to a 20 or 22 for the smaller flying ants. I have a camel 8/0 brown thread. Again, keep it close. You know, the idea between a chef and a cook, you know, you don't have to follow my instructions or recipes exactly. Just keep it within the ballpark. We're going to take our brown thread. We're going to just kind of hang that right above the barb. And we're going to build 2 abdomens that you find, or segments that you find on an ant. Now with the ice dub, you may find sometimes this is a little bit more challenging to use. So if you find ice dub to be a little bit more of a challenge, you can wet your fingers, kind of bind this down. You can use a wax, but really make sure this is nice and tight, because if it's not, the pattern will quickly fall apart after a couple occurrences with trout. We're going to start right here, touching, dubbing. We're going to wrap forward, a couple wraps. We're going to wrap back, forward, kind of building a ball. Once I build my ball, then I'm going to take bare thread, go off the side, jam that in, take this and then jam it back. Kind of create a nice tight ball, like so. Now we're going to take our brown tying thread. We're going to wrap about a third of the way up the hook shank. You can cover the shank a little bit more. You can cover the shank with dubbing, but I prefer just kind of thread. That really gives those segmentations kind of a distinct edge. We're going to do the same thing up here, but just making sure that you leave a gap in between these 2 segments to really create that nice kind of the 2 distinct segments you'll find on an ant. And you can do this in a variety of different colors, black, brown, or like this UV cinnamon color, which is kind of more of an attractor color. Okay, we got that. Now we're going to do the same thing here. Just wrap the base for a brown thread. We're going to wrap forward, wrap back, build the ball, jam those threads, that dubbing together, really give us that nice clean segmentation right there. And this is an easy pattern. I love easy patterns, as you know. We're going to take polypropylene, any high-vis material. I use white, you can use yellow, pink, whatever you find easier to find or see on the water. We're going to take this poly post. This is polywing. There's a number of synthetics out there, but I'm just using white, and we're going to do a double decker for this size 12 hook. We're going to lay that down right on the front side of the abdomen here and just kind of pinch that straight down on top. Reorient. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our thread, fold that on top, and then start winding back. And we're going to kind of jam that up against the first abdomen. And that's what that's going to do. Is going to kind of stick this yarn a little higher up. Kind of as you wrap your thread back, it's going to create kind of a ramp, so to speak, for your yarn. Okay. Now cut this to length. We're going to go just slightly beyond the length of the hook shank. Nice clean cut. There's our wing. Now for our hackle, I'm using a Coachman brown, which is kind of a darker brown, but you can use a lighter brown. You can even use black, whatever you have available. But I'm just using a Coachman brown for this color scheme. We're going to tie this in right in front of the white wing. We're going to wind this hackle. But before we do this, you can see there's a really distinct little edge right here between the thread where you tie the wing down and on the front side of the eye. What I want to do is I want to create a nice smooth taper. So we're just going to take a little bit of dubbing and just fill that gap. Otherwise, if you're wrapping your hackle, it's often going to slip down, which isn't the end of the world. But we're just going to fill that gap. Then we can wind back a little bit and then wind forward. So we're going to fill the gap, but then also just create a nice little dubbing layer. It creates less slickness and just allows us to kind of bind or kind of hold our hackles down in place a little bit better and longer. Now, if you really want this wing sticking up a little bit higher, we can do one wrap as I'm going to do here behind the wing. One wrap behind. And then we're going to just do tight wraps all the way up to the eye. Come behind, remember, kind of weave in and out so you don't trap those fibers. Okay. I'm going to fold this back. And we're going to do a half hitch or your whip finish. I always try to do this before cutting the hackle, because if the thread does slide or slip, you still have hackle to kind of grab and refinish the wraps. But if you cut the hackle and then the hackle comes unwound during the whip finish, you're pretty well in trouble. Cut there, snip. Another little snip right here. And there we have it. Arrick's Ant, just a great little pattern. If you want this to ride a little flusher in the water comb, you can trim the hackles a little bit, but you can just see right there, just a really nice, simple ant pattern. I use this, again, anything from a size 12 or 10 all the way down to like a 20 or 22. A variety of different color schemes. You can do this in the cinnamon ice dub. You can do this in the black. You can do this in a traditional brown. You can even do this in a purple variation. But just a great little pattern that I have found to be incredibly useful. So thanks to Arrick's Fly Shop, or Arrick at Arrick's Fly Shop, for coming up with this simple pattern. And also thanks to my brother who introduced this pattern to me a number of years ago. So give it a shot. I hope it helps, and great fishing. Take care.